Good morning. The question I have today is whether it is wrong to expect a woman to be responsible for cooking or to expect a woman to be responsible for feeding or making food for the family. And I know this is a very sensitive topic, even more sensitive today than it was yesterday. And that's why I want to talk about it. So before I get into my opinion on it, I'd like to give some historical context to the situation. So 50, 100 years ago, most women were housewives, which meant that they spent their whole time at home and they were responsible. The man left and went and worked, and the woman stayed home and took care of the kids, took care of the house, and just all the house duties. Now, in those days, obviously, because of how much time they spent at home and because what their role looked like, cooking, a woman's ability to cook was a big determining factor on what her actual value was in marriage. And so that's how they came about with the idea that the woman's place is in the kitchen, because that was literally where the woman's place was. Now, fast forward, today, women do a lot more than just cook, and they do a lot more than just take care of kids. Women do just as much as men do. They earn just as much money as men earn. And so it's ridiculous to expect that their role is going to stay the exact same, that they're going to have the same responsibilities at home, and that we're going to define their value based on how well they can cook, right? So I want to start by there. Start by recognizing the fact that in this day and age, we cannot define women anymore by their ability to cook or their ability to make a meal. And a woman's ability to do all those things should not be what makes her, a woman's cooking should not be what makes her a good wife, or what qualifies her to be a good wife as from a general standard. And a woman not cooking should not make her a less valuable woman, right? And I think that's something that we have to underline. That's one. The second point, however, with this is that cooking is also a skill. Like making food well is also a skill, which is no different from taking care of children, fixing a car, mowing the lawn, or doing hair, cleaning the house. It's a skill. And it's a skill that some people have. It's a skill that some people don't have. It's a skill that some people value. It's a skill that some other people don't value, right? So just like some women these days cook and some don't cook, there's some men that cook and some men that don't cook. And so one thing that I think gets lost in this whole cooking debate is the idea that men are still allowed to value that skill individually, right? So speaking for myself, like I said earlier, if I meet a woman today, I don't define her worth to the world or her worth as a woman by whether or not she can cook. But me personally, I love to eat. I love acts of service as a love language. And so it's important to me, right? So when I look for a certain skill set in women that I meet, it's important to me that my potential partner be able to make me a meal. And so I seek out that specific skill set, which is cooking. Now, if I meet a woman that can't cook or that is not interested in cooking at all, I don't think any less of her. I just don't think that she may not be the right partner for me because it's a skill that I look for that she doesn't have. Just like there's some skills that she may look for that I don't have. So that to me is a differentiating factor. Now, in addition to that stance, it's also important to point out that when just because someone values a woman making them food doesn't mean that they expect a woman to make food every single day. Doesn't mean that they expect a woman to make food every evening after she gets off work, when she's tired. Doesn't mean that you can't have a helper, someone else to help make the food, right? Because those are two different things. Those are two different things. And sometimes when you bring up the conversation, people directly connect it to, you know, this notion that it's a chore, it's a punishment, it's slave, but it's really not. At the end of the day, I think we're all part of the relationship is part of what we do in relationship is to please the other person. And so if there's something that your partner likes, enjoys, then you want to do it. I do the same thing. And at no point do I want a woman to do something for me as a chore, right? I never want to be in a situation where a woman has to make me a meal and it's like a punishment. I want you to make me a meal because it's something that you want to do to please me, just like I'll do other things. And so that's it, right? And I wanted to talk about this to make sure that we identify the differences in how we approach this subject. On one end, there is the cultural expectation which has been laid on women for generations and which tries to define them by that scale, which I absolutely disagree with and I challenge anytime I can. On the other end, there is the personal expectations based on what we like, what we want, which is absolutely okay. And I think that people should not be chastised for looking for that in a woman. Yeah, at the end of the day, that's what it comes down to. So what do you think about this? Do you think that the way I explained it makes sense? Do you think that you're okay with having a conversation with someone around this when you just met them? Ultimately, I just think that it's not the idea of cooking that is the problem. It's the reasoning behind why we want a woman to make food. And I think if we're able to articulate that well and explain why we feel the way, why we want it, then it may be less of an issue than it is. And people were going to be women especially would be less bothered by the conversation or the need. So that's it for today. I'd like to hear your thoughts on the topic, and until next time.